Hi, everyone, and welcome to the sharing group, y'all. I'm very excited about today's guest. Today's lesson of A Course in Miracles is lesson 101, and it states, God's will for me is perfect happiness. God's will for me is perfect happiness. And I am so very pleased to introduce you all to a near-death experiencer, Kyah, who through her struggles has obtained the wisdom and compassion to help others with theirs. Kyah, thank you so much for joining the show. And I'm so excited to hear about your experience with us.
Thank you, Loretta. It's been so nice getting to know you as well.
Yeah. So Kyah, you can start with your NDE, or you can give us some background information and wherever you feel is appropriate.
Okay. Well, I haven't really shared this in a while, and it's kind of starts with a little bit of background that I had some depression and was struggling quite a bit since I was 15 or so, maybe a little bit younger than that. But my parents would take me to therapy and I just wouldn't like it. Um, and as I got older, I had an eating disorder that got a little worse and then a little more worse. And um, it got to a point where I was about 35 and I decided that, well, I didn't really decide. I was just really depressed and was going through a period of, I guess it's called psychotic depression
Mm,
or depression with psychotic features.
okay.
And there was this it wasn't like an audio voice, but a voice telling me, you should die, you should die, you should die.
Mm,
And it just wouldn't stop unless I engage in some eating disorder behavior, but I was trying not to.
mhm,
And my therapist had actually taken away my anxiety medication. So I didn't have that either. And I just took all of my medication and texted my therapist, I love you. And I thought, okay, this is it. And didn't leave a note or anything. So I wasn't exactly planning to die. And I guess I was found the next day and was taken to hospital, put on the ECMA machine. And I don't know if you know this, I didn't know what it was. It's a machine that literally acts like a heart. So your blood goes out of your body, it goes through, gets pumped, oxygenated, and then put back into your body,
mm,
which is different than a transfusion because transfusions, they also include your platelets and your blood, um, like your hemoglobin. This one oxygenates your hemoglobins. And so I was getting transfusions and ECMO machine. And about 3 weeks later, my brother came so he could watch me be taken off the ventilator. And I continued to breathe. So that was pretty shocking. I slowly got better. I was really upset when I woke up knowing that I was still here. But I think it was sometime during that experience, like when I was waking up or right before I was taken off the machine or as it was happening. I'm not sure when it was because I was unconscious for a week.
mm,
But what I remembered was I was out of my body. There was a white room with a girl in her bed. And I was just thinking, oh, wow. I was like on the top of the ceiling looking down. And I was like, oh, poor girl. I wonder what happened to her. What's wrong with her? She doesn't really look sick or anything, that sucks. Just like totally not me. And then I look out the window, which was like super bright. So I'm assuming that's where I was supposed to go. I was like, oh wow, I'm sure that I'm supposed to go this way, but if I go out that way, I might fall on the ground. It's like way up here on I don't know which floor it was, but I could tell I was on like maybe the fourth floor. But when I'm unconscious, I don't know that I'm on a fourth floor. And so I decided, okay, well, maybe I can try a different way. There has to be a tunnel, right? I'm told there is tunnel. So I go out in the hallway and my soul is trying to find this tunnel that might not exist.
Mm,
And so I'm floating around and not finding anything. I'm going around in this like quadrant hallways. And then I kind of circle back to my room and I notice that there's a lot of people in there. I still don't know that it's my room or anything. I was like, oh, wow, something's happening in there. She looked like so peaceful in there. And then I continued and I just kept floating around. I was thinking, oh, goodness, my soul is lost.
mm,
And that was interesting. I was like, oh, man, I really want to get out of here, but I don't think I'm gonna make it out. It's like, where am I going? I don't want to be stuck here forever. And I was like, I should have gone to that light. And so I go back into the room and then I'm just kind of sucked down. So I'm in this void. And when I was in this void, it was like very black and it wasn't like hell or anything. It was with a presence that some people would attribute to the universe, the higher power, God. And I sat there for a while bargaining with God. I said, please let me up. I don't want to, I want to leave. And he said, well, you have a choice. You don't, I'm like, I'm not going to force you to stay. But if you come back, then you're going to have to go in another body and repeat this. It might be a little worse. And you're the one who took up all these responsibilities that you wanted to experience. So we're going to make you do that. We're going to hold you to your word. And you're going to go through this experience. And either way, you can do it either in this body where you've already done the work, or you can start all over again. I was like, no, don't make me do that. Do not make me start over again. Like, this sucked. And I was like, why would I do that? And he's like, well, we kind of told you that it was a little much, but you insisted on doing cramming more into one life so that you can help more people, that you wanted to experience a bunch of everything, a lot of different hardships, so that you can um, build rapport and understand a lot of what other people are going through, a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of um, different experiences that you can relate to and help bring people up. So that's why you chose that. I was like, man, that sucks. I I gotta tell you, I'm not going to continue it if I'm just going to keep ending every single life if this is how it's going to be. And he's like, well, it's not going to be like that. Like, if you go back, it'll be better. And I was like, yeah, but really? You have to take away all the depression. That's got to go. You have to take away that eating disorder. That's causing depression. That's got to go. You cannot send me back with either of those two things.
mm,
And I'm not going to be poor or anything like that. My family's not poor. Um, But my illnesses were limiting my abilities. So I have to be comfortable, and otherwise, I'm not going. And it's like, well, you'll see. Your first life of your first half of your life has been done. Your second half will be worth going back for, and I guess I'll just have to prove it to you. I was like, yeah, you're gonna have to prove it to me. And he's like, you won't regret it. You're gonna go back, and you'll find that it take a couple years maybe to get settled, but you're not gonna want to come back. And I was like, I'll see you in a year. I'll see you in a year. He's like, probably not. You'll like it. Um, he's like, your first half has been finished. Your second half is promised to be better. What's better? Everything is better from that. So I ended up going back in my body and waking up very angry. I was yelling at the nurses and um, crying for my therapist. But that was over too. So everything in that past life was pretty much over. Yeah, there was a couple of years during COVID that just like stopped the world and allowed me time to recoup. So
Thank you so much for sharing that, Kyah. There is so many lessons in what you just shared. First of all, I love that you negotiated with God. I love that. I love that it was like, if I'm gonna have to go back to this planet, to that dimension, then here are my, requirements. Uh, I love that. Okay, so how did this energy, because you didn't necessarily say it was God, it was a being, it was a voice. Was there a feeling that you got from them when you
a
engaged with
lot of people
them?
talk about unconditional love. I did
Mm-hmm.
not feel that because I had not internalized that in my life.
Mm,
Um, it was actually my therapist who gave me that feeling, which was she highly believed in God, so it was probably coming through from her to give to me.
mm.
And so I attribute that unconditional love to that therapist.
That's amazing. You know what? That's really encouraging to hear. That a therapist can have that kind of impact.
She would talk a little bit about spiritual and her relationship with God and how important it was, but she never ever, said anything or encouraged me to believe in anything.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
And I kind of think that sucked. I wish she had done more of that.
So I love that. And your story sounds so familiar with another indie ear story where it was her first half of the life was very tumultuous. She crossed over and her angels were like, "You chose this." And she was like,
Mhm.
"There is no way that I chose this."
There are several suicide NDEs that have a very similar, you chose this,
Yeah.
and um, you're gonna go and repeat this if you don't go back.
Does that resonate with you, Kaya? That
Yeah, it does because
uh,
my choice, it wasn't you're going back, that's not your time.
mhm.
The best choice was to go back and finish this life to avoid a whole other 35 years of that again.
Yeah, I think it was according to your own soul's things that you wanted to accomplish. Apparently, you wanted to help a lot of people. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think he was trying, whoever I say he, but whoever that energy was was trying to ensure that your soul level choices were honored. And it really makes sense that you got past that the tough parts of your life, and then now, of course, to step into the better parts of your life. So I am curious, Kyah, how did it go with overcoming the eating disorder? Did your relationship with family
See, that's the miraculous part,
okay?
the eating disorder. Because an eating disorder never gets better on its own. It only gets worse without therapy. Unless by chance there's something that changes in life that you decide for some reason that coping skill is not the same. It's not satisfying, and that you have replaced it with some other coping skill.
Yeah.
For me, that was my ultimate coping skill. I would binge and purge. I would exercise. I would do a lot of things, but it never got better. It only got worse and worse and worse. And according to research, it the when we're at my stage where it became chronic, you will die from it. Like 85% of people will die at that stage from your eating disorder. And I was not exactly satisfied with engaging the behavior. It's kind of like I lost interest, which was very strange for me. Yeah, just kind of lost some interest in it. I was concerned about my appearance.
Hmm.
That's kind of the that somebody explained it kind of where when you go back into your body just feels so small, and your soul and spirit seem so big that like it feels like a sausage in a sleeve. I kind of wonder if an eating disorder just is more not able to adjust to that feeling. So the thought is, well, maybe I need to lose weight or something. But as the body gets smaller, the soul is still bigger. So then it just feels even smaller. Just like I feel larger. I almost wonder about that.
That is a
And
very interesting concept, Kyah. I have had another near-death experiencer say she felt like she was this big star and she was now being stuffed in this little bitty body. I've heard that a few times.
yeah,
It was like another in the ear. He said he was when he got back in his body was drowning and the soul was looking at the body drowning and he was saying, how am I gonna fit into that body? So that is interesting that you feel that that may be a connection there with you where or with people where in terms of that can translate to an eating disorder where you feel like I'm this big energy and this little bitty body and it makes you feel fat. That is very interesting, Kyah.
yeah. Because when I heard somebody explain how they felt when they came back in their body, I was like, oh, that's what it usually feels like. It's just
Hmm.
like, uh, yeah, you're too much for that body. And that translates to I feel fat. Um, so I just kind of tried different ways of thinking. I tried pulling back from my experiences and my treatment centers and therapy. And I also tried like that sound therapy that is called chromatic beats or something like that.
Hmm.
Isochromatic beats. I tried listening to those, and I wrote a list of, I was told by, I did most of my stuff from YouTube, and they said you need to get out of the loop of the thoughts that lead you to the behavior. So
Mhm.
I come up with a bunch of questions for myself, like, oh, what's your favorite Disney princess? Oh, which one would you want to be and why? Uh, like, if you won $1 million, what would you do with it? Those kind of questions would focus me away from whatever else I was thinking. And I'd have to focus really hard on those questions. And they had to be simple and fun questions.
Mhm. Mhm. Uh,
And that seemed to help a lot.
yeah.
And yeah, so I really didn't, it took a very short amount of time for me to say to not have an eating disorder anymore. Took a couple of years for me to gain a few pounds, but I'm back to normal. And now I've had a couple of jobs, one job working with eating disorders, and now I'm going into my second part-time job working with eating disorders in a couple of weeks. And that place is just 4 blocks from my house, so it's gonna just walk there.
Well, congratulations, Kaya. I feel like I have to say that. Congratulations that you were able, because it sounds like you had the near death experience, and it God or the universe or your higher self helped you lose the desire to binge and purge, but you did the work. Sounds like you did the work. You looked it up on YouTube, you figured out, you know what? Let me get out of this loop of negative thinking that's leading me right back to that pattern. And so congratulations for doing the work to get yourself out of that. I love that. I absolutely love that. Um, tell us about, because you it's not like you magically stop suffering. And I understand that your stepdad, who was on the other side, helped you. Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, it wasn't in DE, but um one time in the middle of the night, I was experiencing these really weird symptoms. I was sweating, my ears were tingling, like something shot from the bottom of my spine all the way up into my head and started going, and I was like, what the heck was that? And so I like, I'm the kind of person who Googles things, like signs and symptoms of those things online. And then this lady named Christina Lopez on YouTube comes up and she's like, well, hello, my beautiful souls, And she started talking about Kundalini Awakening.
Mm,
And I was like, oh, wow, a spiritual awakening. Okay, that makes sense. Um, because this was like less than a year than my near death experience later.
mhm,
My dad had just died. And I was like, okay, this makes sense. And when I kind of, uh, I don't remember if it was, I looked up that before my dad came into my body or if my dad came into my body before I looked it up. But some his voice came in my head and said, hold on, don't be frightened, but this is your dad. I am on the other side, and I just can't watch you suffering
mm,
like this. And I don't have my any authority to do this, but I literally just cannot watch you do this.
mm,
And at that time, like I said, it was less than a year after my NDE. I had moved to Nevada, hate Nevada, and was living with a man that I didn't really like all that much. He kind of like sold where I was living from under me and moved me into his house,
mm.
which happened to be near my parents anyway. I was not enjoying this God had said that part of my life was over, and it was not over. Um, so I was struggling with, contemplating staying, and my daddy just, nah, this is, I can't watch this. We can see you up from up here. And so we need to get into your head. I need to change your thoughts somehow, electrify your brain, and just stop it. So he started my Kundalini Awakening.
Wow. I love that. I love that.
And I didn't know what a Kundalini Awakening was until that night. I never knew that a spiritual awakening was a thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it has nothing to do with woke people. But
So let's unpack that, Ty. Oh, I love you. Let's unpack that. So you were having sweats at night and you felt your
just
dad
one night.
one
Just one.
night and you felt your dad's energy come into your body.
Yeah.
And he told you, we are seeing you from the other side. We see your suffering, and I can't take it anymore. What do you think that he meant by I don't have the authority to do this, but I'm
Well,
going?
he just got to heaven. And I
Okay.
think we get responsibilities. I was in a spiritual center taking some energy classes
Okay.
because I stole something from that store, and my punishment was that I have to take her classes. So otherwise, she would tell the police. So I had a little bit of a problem with that too. So in
Mhm.
those classes, I learned that there's a tier to heaven. And when people die, they go through levels of responsibilities.
Sure.
And then they have to do so many things before they get their wings. And yeah, the archangels are like the top ones.
Yeah.
And then they have designated roles for everyone. So he didn't have his rights to give somebody a Kundalini awakening.
That's so juicy to me. That is so juicy to me that he said, listen, I haven't passed these classes yet, but I cannot watch you continue to suffer. It's just so validating to know that our loved ones are rooting for us on the other side. They're watching us. And it's also encouraging to know that we can talk to them. I understand that he's one of your main guides, right?
Yeah, the other is my grandmother.
I love it. So you communicate with them?
Yes, and she tells me when I need to clean my house. I'll look at her and I'll just like look away. If I need to clean my kitchen, she's like, I see it. Grandma.
So she running things from the other side. I love that. I love
Yeah, her thing is like, how can you keep your life together if you can't even keep your house together?
that is facts. And she is speaking to me just this morning. I was like, I gotta clean this out. That is facts, okay?
That's a
Um,
typical silent generation statement, right?
yes. So I just wanted to acknowledge this manager at this spiritual store who you stole from, and she said, take my classes. I just thought that was very compassionate for her to say that. How did you do you, when you think back on that, what do you think? Uh,
Thank God I didn't go to jail. Oh my gosh.
yes.
Yeah, I'll do that. And she's like, 10 of them. I was like, oh man, this is like, this looks like an occult center, like, why did I have to steal from this place? Um,
Well, that makes sense that that would be her negotiation because if you evolve spiritually, she figured you'll stop stealing, right? So
yeah,
love, I that's so cool. I love
and it worked. So,
it did.
so I'm very
Um,
grateful for her.
so Kyah, I understand that you were actually able to see yourself during the near-death experience. You were actually able to see yourself at 80 years old.
Oh, yes, I forgot about that, telling you that. But yes, I did during that near death experience, after I was in the void or during the void, I was shown what I would be like, how I would feel um in my future at the end of my life. And I kind of saw a Betty Crocker type of woman, a lady similar to this. um,
Yeah.
and I felt accomplished. I felt like I had done some good in this world. I felt like
Wow.
money was comfortable. Not sure what that means, but I felt like there wasn't any problem getting what I needed in life. And I had a respectable title.
Mhm.
So I kind of remember that when I'm having trouble or having feeling discouraged, and I think about my future self and say to myself, well, I will get there, and there's not going to be any problem. If that's the end, then there shouldn't be any problem meeting anything along the way,
Yeah.
because I'm only going up.
I love that. Kyah, did you express at all to your family that that you actually died? And
Oh, they knew that I died. The doctors told them.
did
And
you talk about your near-death experience with them, or did they notice changes in you? Tell us about that.
my mom, I told. Um, my brother wasn't interested. He doesn't believe in that shit. He's very I don't know him very well, but he's not into believing anything. But my mom, I told her, and she's a lot more spiritual than I had anticipated. Her first question I was really thrown off by when she knew that I had died and before I had told her. She was like, "Did you see anything? Did Was there a tunnel?" And I was like, "How rude, like I didn't even get to tell you first. Like you're already asking if there's a tunnel, if I saw anything on the other side. Like I just died, mom." A little premature.
So, Kaya, let's talk about the eating disorder. What are some of the contributing factors to experiencing an eating disorder, and how can we help pull someone out of that if we have someone in our lives who is struggling with that? What's a good way for us to like help them?
Okay. An eating disorder is so multidimensional. And that's the number one thing people need to know about eating disorders. There's no single one factor. There's no
Mhm.
10 single one factors.
Mhm.
It's a multitude. It's a huge conglomerate of background that leads somebody who is sensitive and vulnerable to others' decisions, um, to like want some kind of a sense of control and sense of accomplishment themselves.
Yeah.
And that's just more tangible. Going back to feeding oneself was pretty tangible. To see your goals being made, you can easily, I mean, it's a lot easier to like lose 5 pounds than it is to, oh, let's put all the work into this. And in 3 years from now, get a job as this.
Mhm.
Um, it's a very logical and easy goal to
Mhm.
do if you
Mhm.
just put everything into it. It's faster. There's a sense of accomplishment in that. It's a false sense of accomplishment,
mm,
but the for some reason the ego or the self-esteem is just so low
mhm,
that you need some boost every day.
mhm,
And that world, a bad day of eating can just break your world, you know? A good day of eating can make your world.
mm,
Very simplified. But somebody who is helping and watching from the outside needs to know it's not at all about the food,
mm,
and it's not a single factor or even just five different things that contributed to it. There's a whole slew of reasons.
mm,
And it could be some kind of a trauma, a series of traumas, like people who have a background with more ACEs, adverse childhood experiences have a higher likelihood of getting eating disorder, addiction, things like that. And then if you grow up with in a family dynamic where it's unhealthy, just put it that way, it's not a secure relationship, then you have a higher likelihood of getting eating disorder. There's just so many factors. So
mhm,
when somebody says, "Oh, you have an eating disorder because you think you're fat," or "You have an eating disorder because you had a trauma in your life," no, it's not just one single factor, because a lot of people have trauma in their life. They don't end up with eating disorder. They don't end up with addictions. So it's not cause and effect. Um, oh, you have an eating disorder because your mom had a diet and never shopped. Well, yeah, that's part of it.
mhm,
Because you can mirror your family and internalize thoughts and feelings of other people and take them on as your own. It's just what role do you play in your family as well? Um, what environment do you live in? Do you live in, let's see, a family who values success? I think people who live in a family who has a high value on success more than emotions have a higher rate of eating disorders.
mm.
Um, so there's a lot of things.
Yeah, you and I talked, and you talked about, to help people struggling with eating disorders or any kind of mental illness is to add the word yet or up until now. Like you could say, well, you haven't been able to live independently yet. So
Yeah.
you're
So
not
taking
pushing.
away limiting beliefs
Yes.
was very helpful,
Mhm.
because when, say, I had low self esteem, there's a limit to my life. My esteem couldn't think big.
Yeah.
It couldn't think successful.
Yeah.
It's like everything was shut down before I could think about it, you know? Like, so I I asked you, do you think you can manifest the lottery? Well, I asked somebody else at my job. I was like, what would you do if you had $1 million or if you won the lottery? She's like, I don't got time to think about thoughts like that. I was like, are you a dream killer? And I was shocked. I was like, you just shut that down immediately. Well,
Mhm.
that's kind of what it's like.
Mhm.
I shut my own thoughts down
Yeah.
before I could even think them. And it's like, oh, do you think you would ever be able to buy a house of your own? I was like, yeah, well, I don't have a job, or I don't have this, or I don't have that.
Mhm.
Well, instead of thinking about that, I think I haven't achieved that yet, but when I say that, it removes the barrier to achieve it in the future.
I love that. Yeah, I love that because it is all about our beliefs. We are only limited to our capacity of beliefs, what we are able to believe in, what we know that we can do. So you're right, and you and I have talked. Um, and I too have experience with suicidal ideation, and it is about our thoughts. It's about our thoughts and recognizing the self-talk that we do, right, to ourselves. Because if we're constantly replaying a negative dialogue in our head, then it keeps us energetically in a low place. So that is so true. Something else I've heard you say is recognize the baby steps, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you have a family member that's struggling with an eating disorder or any kind of mental illness, to recognize those increments of growth that they show, right?
Yeah, because something that you might think is super tiny, like, oh, the this person walked outside today. Well, yeah, duh, I told him to walk outside like a million times last week. Just getting outside is a change of behavior.
Yeah.
And that might have been something so difficult. And there could have been so many barriers to that person walking outside.
Mhm.
Not just when you see it from the outside, you don't see any of those barriers. So for somebody to have some behavior that changed, this person could have had a million different thoughts about walking outside that they needed to remove.
Yeah.
And when that achievement is not recognized by that sufferer, and you say, "Bah, it's about time you did that," like I can, like, what took you so long? It's just slams that behavior into the wall, says, "Oh, that doesn't matter at all."
Yeah.
Like that's such a little tiny thing. Yours that is not at all significant. So whatever you went through, too, so whatever the sufferer went through to be able to achieve that has now been smushed into the ground.
This right here is wisdom. This is wisdom that you are speaking. That is so true. Acknowledge that growth. And when that person has stepped to a space where they finally overcome something like going outside, celebrate it. Celebrate it. Um, there are,
Yeah, even asking, "Oh, how are you able to do that?"
yeah,
Because
yeah,
that gives a person acknowledgement that it was difficult. Thank you.
yes, yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you for seeing that.
yeah. So, Kyah, is there anything else you would like to share? I know that people are going to want to I can sense and feel that people who are struggling with maybe an eating disorder or depression, and like the energy told you, you did want to reach a lot of people. And I'm gonna tell you through this experience, you are able to reach a lot of people. They will feel none judged by you. And that is huge in healing. Is feeling like they will not be judged. So if folks wanted to contact you, is what is the best way they can reach out to you?
I've gotten a few emails in the past. You can reach me at KYAHOLLEN at gmail.com.
Awesome. I'll have that written on the screen. I'll also have it on the description box. Did you have any words of wisdom to share with the audience before I read you your closing remarks, Kyah?
Words of wisdom. Here, give me high five. Okay, my cat has been my savior. My little
Oh,
topaz. She's like a spirit guide herself.
mhm.
Um, finding something in life that you love, an animal or something that, or maybe your niece or your nephew. Find something that would miss you if you left.
Mm,
And just think about that every day
yes.
because without you, there will be no ripple. You cannot make any ripples if you're gone. And
Mm,
the ripples can affect into a wave. And waves definitely impact the world. So
mm,
just think about that. And then also in that movie IQ, it's a comedy with Meg Ryan. They were talking about when an atom collides with an atom, which collides with another atom, which collides with an atom, and then it collides into you. You go, woo, you know, that is energy, and that is from you.
wow, I love it. I love it. And I'm feeling guided, Kyah, to and you and I had a great conversation about this to talk about, we talked a little bit about the self-talk, but just to recognize that if we are speaking to ourselves in a way that is not loving, to treat that voice as we would another energy, right? So if we're sitting on the couch and we're thinking you'll never amount to anything or anything, just to say, wait a minute, who are you? No, this is not okay.
Yeah, like why would you? Okay, so you live with yourself 100% of the day, right?
Mhm.
So would you want a roommate that was always negative on you, was always telling you you suck because you didn't do the dishes? Like, I can't believe you're like that. Like, how on earth can I live with you? You're such a disgusting person. Why would you want to live with that person? Like,
Exactly.
you actually don't live with that kind of person. So why would you want to do that to yourself?
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, you've kicked everyone else that does that out, but you're still doing it to yourself. It doesn't make any sense.
I love that. Yes, we have to be mindful of our self-talk. Kyah, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. You have and I love, let me not log off without telling you that I love that you are now in a position where you're going to be helping others who are struggling with eating disorders. To me, that is a beautiful full circle moment in your life.
Yes, and it's not my ultimate uh goal in life, but it's something that I can do along the way.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. That really is. Uh, you have transmuted something. You have transmuted a heavy energy, a dense energy to the point where you're able to give others and show others how to overcome it. That's a beautiful thing to do.
My goal during this step is to plant the seeds.
Yes.
For example, there was one teenager who she was had a belief that you have to have a man in your life to make you happy. So she was always trying to be in a relationship. If she didn't have a boyfriend, then there's something wrong with her. I mean, she's only 16. I didn't have a boyfriend when I was 16. I had one for 3 weeks. But she looked at me like after she'd been there for a few weeks. She's like, can I ask you a personal question? And I was like, okay, depends on the personal question. She's like, are you married? And I said, no. She's like, do you have a boyfriend or partner, anybody? I was like, no. She's like, I could just see that look on her face, like, how on earth are you happy?
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And that was a classic, like, oh, I don't have to have a boyfriend to
Yeah,
be happy.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
those are the kind of seeds that I want to sow.
Okay. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service and what you're doing.
Thank you for your platform and allowing me to share.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Kyah, I am going to read you your closing remarks. It's been a pleasure having you on. So, Kyah, the soul level courage that you embody is evident in your pre-birth planning. The challenges that you decided to sign on to before you were born demonstrates your level of advancement in the spiritual realm. I have stated this before on this platform, and I will speak it again. It is not within our most comfortable moments that we are the most impactful. Quite the contrary, it is within the grunts of struggle, the pains of depression, and the errors of false thinking that makes way for the light within us to illuminate the world. It is only through the pressures of challenges that afford us the opportunity to transmute fear into its purest form of love. And Kyah, in a dimension full of false pretenses, you dare to take on experiences that have enabled you to be refreshingly effective in the mental health arena. I applaud your courage on so many different levels that you have shown. And we all benefit from the heights of which you have grown. Thank you so much for deciding to return to us in this dimension and share your gifts of compassion and wisdom with us. Thank you for being here, Kyah. Thank you for joining the show. Thank you for your love and your wisdom and your compassion. Thank you for the work that you are embarking on and helping others. And it's just been a pleasure having you on. I see your courage, girl. I see your light. Thank you for being.
Thank you. How long did that take you to write? It takes me like 20 minutes to write a little 2 paragraph or 1 paragraph thank you note. That was beautiful.
You. It came every guest, I just say, God, what would you like to share? Or guides, their higher self, what would you like to
You
share
didn't write that beforehand?
first? You are so
Thanks. That was
fine.
beautiful.
And it's all true. It's all very true. I mean, really, we could craft up these comfortable lives. Really, we could craft up comfortable lives with no challenges, but I see your level of advancement in the challenges that you signed on to. And I would like for you to see that as well, to acknowledge, wow, I must be a pretty powerful soul.
I try to see the advancement in everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Anybody who is here is incredibly courageous. I always say if
It's her.
this planet, really, if we're on this planet, listen, y'all are courageous. You
Y'all are crazy not to be here.
for real. So, oh, okay, don't you gonna make me forget. We gotta end with a heart, Kaya. We gotta end with a heart. Yes, throw up them hearts. And thank y'all, everyone who rocked with us today. I hope that you enjoyed hearing Kaya's experience. I encourage everyone, no matter what your journey is, reach out to me if you have had spiritual experiences in any capacity. Reach out and let's share. Let's share our wisdom and our love with one another so that we can continue to grow from one another. And thank you again, Kyah. And until next time, love y'all.
Thank you, Loretta.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story as well.
You're welcome.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.